welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. And I got to tell you something, people. Back there when I was in college in the early 80s, when we go out dancing to a bar or in the summer down the shore, there was a song that always filled up the dance floor. Well, there's a bunch of them. One of them was Turning Japanese by the Vapors. And the Vapors were a great band. They broke up. They're back together. They have a new album. I still call them albums, called Wasp In A Jar. Just came out, and I have their bassist here, Steve Smith, who's got some good songs with some really good bass lines on this album. And my guest is Steve Smith. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, people just, me and Steve had like the biggest technology problem before this, but we got to figure it out. So, okay, I'm going to start this. You play bass. I know you play a lot of instruments, but as a bassist, and I love music. What are a few of your bass lines from songs over history? Like when you think back as a bassist, what are some bass lines that you go, holy shit, that's a great bass line?
My Generation. Dear Prudence, I really like. Down in the Tube Station at Midnight. That's a few.
Okay, that's cool. Because I was wondering, because the bass, I always think the bass is always cool. I always compare like a bassist and a drummer to, baseball, the middle infielder. You need them to make the whole thing work. I want to talk to you, tell me about the new album, Wasp In A Jar, which, you're some pretty good bass intro in the beginning of Forever and Words and Proud. You got some good bass lines going there. But tell me about the album, how you guys recorded it. I know you were away for a long time, but now you're back and you had something come out a few years ago. But tell me about the new album, and are you excited for it?
Yeah, really, very much so. We actually recorded it in Mechanicsburg, which was a friend of ours at the studio there, Mike Giblin, who's produced the album. And so we relocated to his place for 2 weeks. We worked every day, and over 2 weeks we made what we think is a really great album. It really excited us, so I hope it's going to excite everyone else.
So what goes into it? You worked every day for 2 weeks. What was your whole process? Because it's got I think 13 tracks. The last track is like a 9-minute track, which you don't hear a lot these days. But what was your process of, how did you end up at that studio? I mean, when did you decide to come out with this new album? Because nowadays, and it sucks because I'm older. I loved albums, but a lot of people don't get the album thing, and our generation does. But what made you decide to do an album, and what was the process, and what were your days like?
A friend of ours, an American friend, actually contacted us in the spring of last year, and he said, look, I really want you guys to make another album. I'm willing to put some money into it. I know a producer, he's got a studio. And we hadn't really thought about it until that point, although we had some songs. And we had a chat with this producer who had his own studio, but we didn't quite connect with him. And then I remembered that we knew someone in America with a studio, which is Mike Giblin, who's a really good friend. And so I suggested, why don't we use Mike? So then we contacted him. He said, yeah, he'd love to do it. You can come and stay at my place. We had some shows in America on the 80s tour, one of the Lost 80s tours. And so we did a few weekends of gigs and then went to his place for 2 weeks and recorded 14 tracks, I think 14 tracks in 14 days. But the process was, we pretty much put down live the bass guitar, the drums, and the rhythm guitar. They're basically put down live, and we try and do a couple of those a day. And then after the bass and drum parts had all been done after a week, then we take one song at a time and finish it. Do the lead guitars, the overdub guitars, anything else, and the vocals, and then we'd move on to the next one. And that was pretty much how we did it. Now,
when you get it done, I always wonder, who decides what the track listing is going to be? Because, I grew up with sides of albums, and you had the sides, and for some reason they seem to always work. But so for you guys, for this album, because there's, of course you put vinyl out, but there's not, people don't understand flipping an album. Now they do. Turntables are coming back. But how did you decide? Because you have 14 songs, and of course it makes sense the long one is the last song. But how did you decide the order of all the songs?
Well, we sat around a table and discussed it basically. The first issue is we can't fit all of the songs on vinyl without the sound quality deteriorating. You can only, I think you can only do like 42 minutes or 21 minutes a side or something. So the first thing is which two songs aren't going onto the vinyl, and then once you've decided that, then like what's the order of the, because the vinyl has to be treated as like two little mini sets of 6 songs, and you don't want songs in the same key to follow one another either. So there's all these kind of variables. But I have to say, I thought it was going to take us all afternoon, and we did it in about half an hour. And I thought it was going to take us 4 or 5 hours. And in the end, it all seemed quite obvious which songs should go on the vinyl and in which order. And then it's just what do you do with the rest of the CD stuff, which is just put it on the end, really.
Now, for you, do you have a favorite song on the album? Because I always wonder if musicians have a favorite song. Like they sit there and they go, like we can go, oh, I love that song. But the musicians go, holy shit, this is a great song, and I really want to play it live. Or what's your favorite song?
Wow, it's a bit like asking you what your favourite child. Who's your favourite child? Isn't
Okay,
it?
give me 2. Give me 3 of your favorite songs on the album.
On the new album, do you know what? Nothing Can Stop Us Now, Hit the Ground Running, and Human Race.
And what makes them special to you?
Nothing Can Stop Us Now. That's a weird one because we were struggling with what we were going to do drum-wise on it. And I had a dream. And I had a dream we were watching ourselves on TV at some kind of festival somewhere. And we were playing the song that we were struggling. And I basically dreamt what the drums should be. And I woke up and I remembered it, which was great. And I told the lads the next day, I went, oh, I've got to solve the drum thing on that track. So that is I like about that one. Hit the Ground Running, I love its punky energy. It's just reminds me of our first ever single in a way. And Human Race, because it bombs along and it's about the band.
So, what made you get into music? I always wonder. You've been playing music for a long time, and what gravitated you towards music? Did you pick up the bass first? Did you pick up a guitar? What's your background in getting into the music industry?
Well, I got into music at about the age of about 7 when I saw the first time I saw the Beatles on TV, and I was just absolutely mesmerised. And my grandmother used to take me to see all those really rubbishy beat group films when I was about 7, 8, 9 years old. I saw the Dave Clark 5 film, the Herman's Hermits film, all these terrible films. And I just was completely obsessed about music from a very early age. And I just got, my mother insisted I had piano lessons, which obviously worked out quite well in the end. From that, I thought I'd rather do guitar. And my cousins were in a covers band when I was about 16 or 17, and they approached me, and I was working in a sort of menial job, and said, we need a bass player for our covers band. We're professional, how much are you earning here? And I said how much I was earning there, and they said, oh no, you can earn more than that playing bass for us. And I said, well, I'm not a bass player. And they went, no, you'll be able to do it. So that's how I got into playing the bass, really. So I went off and did... I don't know if there's an equivalent in America, but they have these working men's clubs, and they have bands on in these working men's clubs, and it's a pretty grim scene, really. Well, but the money's quite good.
Yeah, well, no, it's funny because I have a background in stand-up comedy, and some of those clubs we had to play them in the beginning, because that was where you would go, where you could get stage time, where you would get some money. And it's like no one gives a shit about you. They care about what's going on, but you just do it. So
yeah. So it's a bit of a strange one because until the band before the Vapors, I'd never played bass before.
Did you pick it up easy? I mean, because you were trained on piano, you played piano, and you played guitar. I mean, was it an easy transition? Because it's a whole different holding and set and everything like that.
Yeah, I'd always been quite intrigued with like Paul McCartney's bass playing. I just think it's just it's always so on point. He always knows exactly what to play, and I've been listening to him particularly playing bass for a long time. And it was a covers band that I joined, so it was just a question of learning. So, you know, you learn all these great bass lines and then you kind of work out how to play the bass.
So, how did the Vapors come about? And it's crazy to think, you know, you're back, and that's so cool. I think it's such a great thing because '80s music it's my generation. That's my music, man. We want to see it now. We can see it, and you put these concerts together like Lost in the '80s, which it's not coming to Philadelphia, which sucks. But you know, we put it together. We all can go. We can see a great show. But how did the Vapors start? How did you guys get together? Because it's always, I tell people, it's not like now where you can put an ad on the internet. Oh, I can do it, and someone send you a video, or you know, you can put together stuff really quick. How did you guys start? What was your history?
Well, there was an early version of the Vapors, which was Dave and 3 other people, and there was a bit. We're all from Guildford, which is quite a small place, about 60,000 people at the time. I think it's probably more now, but at the time, only about 60,000 people. But there was a little scene, and there was a lot of bands, and the original Vapors lineup kind of just disintegrated, and Dave just went round and he thought, yeah, I like what this guy does, I like what this guy does, and we basically came together as a 4-piece in February 1979. I think I did look at this the other day. Yeah, it was at the end of February 1979. We came together as the 4 of us. And from then, things went pretty quickly. In fact, really quickly, because our second gig as that lineup, Bruce Foxton of the Jam turned up, amongst probably only about 5 people at the actual gig on a Sunday night in the middle of nowhere. But he really loved it, got us a couple of gigs supporting the Jam opening. John Weller, Paul Weller's dad, got involved in management with Bruce. And then we got signed, we recorded an album, we did Turning Japanese, went around the world a bit and then split up.
Now, okay, so you only have a few gigs, and then all of a sudden you're going to be opening for the Jam. I mean, what is that like? Because you're going from, as you said, you're playing a bar in front of 5 people, and then next thing you know, what were some of the gigs you were playing? I mean, and what did they say? They just said, hey, we like you, come on out on the road with us. And how did you guys get around? Did they put you in a bus? Or tell me about this first tour opening for the Jam.
Well, it was just 2 shows, and it was first band on out of 3. But we travelled up in our little van. We're sitting on the equipment, basically. There's 3 seats in the front, and then everyone else was in the back, sitting on the amplifiers. But then we were open for the Jam, and it was, I mean, they were my favourite band at the time, so for me it was great. I get to see the Jam for free, and I get backstage. How much better could it be? So we did those. They went really well, and then Bruce. But you know, I'm still friends with Bruce. I'm still good friends with Bruce, and he just he kept coming along and being really encouraging and positive, and then he got John Weller along, and John got really positive, and yeah, it was just like a roller coaster, really.
Now, how easy was it to get the record deal? I mean, was it just something that, you know, because I hear horror stories of people trying to get record deals, like they go in and they get passed by everyone. Did you guys just because who you were connected to, Weller and Bruce, did they just give you a record deal, or did you have to come in and audition, or how did you get that first record deal?
Well, we had 2 offers on the table. One was from the Jam's record label, which was obviously partly down to John, and the other was from United Artists, which was a small label. Only about 15 employees, all worked on one floor of a building. Everyone had to be into a band for them to get signed. They didn't drop their bands after one album if they didn't make major sales. They stuck with their bands. They had Stranglers, Dr. Feelgood, you know, and we had a choice. The deals were very, very similar, and there's hardly any difference in the deals. But rather than go with the Jam's label where we were getting, we had produced by the Jam, managed by the Jam. It'd be nice to get away. So we went with United Artists, which was a very independent label, but with major distribution. And everything was going so well until EMI Records came and bought United Artists and got rid of all the people that we worked with. They closed the label down, basically.
So okay. Well, now, did the album come out before EMI came along?
No.
So then what?
Turning Japanese came out, but before News at 10, which was the follow-up single, came out, before United Artists was. It might have said United Artists on the label, but all the people were gone, and it was EMI. So
Turning Japanese comes out. Now, how long till it becomes a hit? Because it became a huge hit in America, and also it was the advent of MTV, which helped. But how long until it became a hit over there?
It was pretty quick, really. I mean, it was about a year after I joined the band that me and the drummer joined. It was about a year. It was March 1980. It was really quick. We're incredibly lucky, really.
So that comes out, and now how does that change your career at that time? Because what gigs were you playing? I mean, you'd done the Jam. After you did the few shows with the Jam, were you doing other gigs yet, or what was going on?
Yeah, we were doing a few gigs. I mean, we'd actually supported the Jam. They did when the Setting Suns album came out, they did I think it was about 25 dates UK tour, and we did that. That was our first proper tour. So we'd done that a couple of months before Turning Japanese came out, and we'd been playing that on that tour.
So when you were on that tour, did you feel like you were growing as a musician because you're out 25 nights or 25 gigs? How was the band starting to gel? Were you getting the feeling of being live? Because it is crazy. And I know for me doing shows, when you start off, you do it in front of like 8 people, then you get to a comedy club that's like 200, and then, you still have to acclimate because it's nervous. And as you get older, you actually, for me, I only perform once in a while. I appreciate the smaller crowd now because you can just have fun.
Yeah.
But what was it like for you guys when you're going? I mean, as I said, you weren't with the band that long, and all of a sudden you have a 25-city tour. I mean, were you nervous before shows, or were you growing as a musician? I mean, what was happening to you?
I mean, I think at first it was quite nerve-wracking. Especially the Jam's crowd were notoriously, they didn't really want anything else. They just wanted the Jam. So it started off being quite tricky, but we started going down well. People, they were appreciating it, and we could tell people were enjoying it, and we were growing Ed and Howard were 18 years old on that tour. They were really, really young kids, really. And I think I was only about 20, 21. But we just grew as a band. But by the end of that tour, we were a proper band.
So you said earlier you toured the world. So after Turning Japanese hits it, okay, and it's a popular hit, you do a video. Where did you shoot the video, and did you like shooting the videos? Because a lot of people don't understand a video. You just got to sit around the whole time, and a lot of the video is Dave. So how was it shooting the video? What was the process for that video?
What, Turning Japanese?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just did it really quickly in one day. It was quite overwhelming, really, because we were just, like I say, we were just a bunch of kids, and they said, "Oh, you're going to make a video," and then you turn up and there's geisha girls and samurai people around, swords, and thinking, bloody hell, it's just. When I watch the video, I can see that I'm really overwhelmed by the whole thing. And it's done really quickly in one day. And really quickly, and then it was just there. It was, and that was it, and it served us very well.
Well, it's crazy that back then, growing up near Philadelphia, we heard a lot of Philadelphia local bands, but before MTV, we didn't have the access to hear or see bands that hadn't broken in America yet. And then MTV happened, and we got to see all these bands. So it really opened us up to some new music. So the video takes off, and then now when do you start touring the world? Is it automatically people say, hey man, this is a hit, you got to get out there, or what happened?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, it got a pretty worldwide release. There's like loads and loads and loads of different versions, like from Peru and the Philippines and all sorts of weird places. So it did get a wide release everywhere. But it took off obviously in England first, but then it started happening in Australia. And it got to #1 in Australia. And so that was our proper first out of town tour, was going to Australia, which was pretty amazing. And we went there for just like a couple of weeks. And while we were out there, all of a sudden, the Japanese had started taking off in the States. And all of a sudden they were going, look, if you can get some visas, why don't you come to America on your way home and do like 8 shows, I think it was. It wasn't very many, over a couple of weeks. And so we ended up doing, our first trip out of the country was 2 weeks in Australia and then 2 weeks in America. I mean, how much better does it get than that?
Well, it was your first time in America, right?
Yeah.
Where do you remember where you guys landed first? Do you remember like what airport you landed in? Like what city?
Yeah, we landed in LA, and the first gig was, we did 2 shows at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Now, what is that like? I mean, you're young guys, you're coming to America, you're coming to LA. You know, I mean, I lived there for 16 years, and I was fascinated by it when I first visited it. But you come to LA, and then did you know how legendary the Whiskey was when you guys were going to play there?
I mean, yeah, I'd heard of it. Yeah, we definitely heard of the Whiskey A Go-Go in England. Yeah, we knew we knew it was pretty legendary. It was really quite intimidating though, because at one point there were all these kind of really cool people in our dressing room, and I was thinking, oh my God, there's Clem Burke sitting over there. Oh God. But just things like that. It was kind of really odd. It's really, I'm a fan really, basically at heart. I'm just a fan. And it's really kind of weird.
Now, how did the American crowds take to you? Because the American crowds are different. You know, American crowds. You know, I've heard stories. I've heard horror stories of crowds in England. You know, throwing stuff and stuff like that, and they maybe just be all made up. But American crowds are pretty passive. You know, like there's like one asshole might throw stuff, but they're pretty chill. Especially L.A. L.A. is very glamorous. Do you remember those first shows, and how did the crowd react to you?
Yeah, it was. We used to say we should go and live in America because we do better there. I mean, live shows wise, we had a great time touring America back in the day. Still do have a great time touring America, but yeah, we really enjoyed it. The crowds were really positive. So,
you mentioned earlier that you guys broke up. What led to the breakup? I mean, what was the real reason? What happened? Was it just
the real reason was that whole record company thing? We basically, EMI had bought United Artists, kept very few of the bands, to be honest. We were one of the so-called lucky ones because we got retained. But from then on, we didn't have any. There was nobody at our record company that had signed us and been to see us, and they didn't even really want us, I don't think. They had Duran Duran and all these other things going on, and it just got to the point where there was no communication with the record company. Nothing was going on. We were supposed to be going in the studio, then they pulled the studio time right at the last minute, and Dave said, I can't work with these people anymore. I've had enough. And then it kind of just, that was it.
So what do you do then? Because, you sat there, you already achieved, you toured. You went to America, you went to Australia, you had a popular hit, you had a video. You've done more than most musicians will ever do. It's like I always talk to actors who've had a pilot for a TV show and it doesn't get picked up and they go, oh man, my career sucks. I'm like, no, you got a pilot. That's more than most people. But for you, you're a young guy. You've tasted, and I'm sure when you were touring Australia and America, you were treated nice. As you said, people were in your dressing room. So there's that certain brush with fame. So all of a sudden, you guys break up, not not you're doing, basically the record companies. I mean, are you frustrated, or what do you think you're going to do now? Because you're a musician, but your world's sort of fallen out from underneath you.
It totally fell from underneath me. Yeah, so what am I going to do? I ended up getting another band together called Shoot Dispute, and we were championed very much by John Peel, and we nearly got over the line. I did a few bands that got close to getting somewhere. So did Dave. I mean, Dave carried on for 10 more years, trying to get signed, trying to get stuff out. But I mean, one good thing about today is, like, if you're a band now, you don't need a record company. You can just do it yourself. You don't need to wait around for someone to sign you. You just go and make your own recordings, put them out yourself. You won't make much money, but at least your stuff will be out there.
Now you said you were in a few bands that almost got past the line. What kept you going? You know, people don't understand anything in entertainment. There's so much rejection. You know, people only look and they see the big rock star. They don't see the work and the hard work and the almost made it, or bands that had it and then lost it. What kept you going the whole time? Because it has to be frustrating, and it's something that it's especially when you've tasted it. You know, if you've never tasted it, it's one thing. You know, it's like, oh well. But for you, I mean, you know you're good. Your band's good. The Jam, Bruce from the Jam saw you, and they liked you, so you know you're good. But so what kept you going, like in those younger years? Because that's the years we just get more frustrated.
Yeah, well, what keeps me going is the music. Like I say, I'm a fan of music, and all the bands I've been in, all the music I've made, I've been a part of creating, and I have real belief in. And I really, what I live for, the moments when it all gels and everything just goes, and you think, yeah, this sounds great. This sounds really great.
So what brought you guys back together? Because you sat there, it was a long time. I mean, if you think about the difference between the albums and then the album you came out with a few years ago, it's a very long time. But what were the factors that brought the Vapors back together?
Well, the main factor, I think, was that Dave, who'd been working as a lawyer for the Musicians Union, he'd been offered early retirement, and he wanted to take his early retirement. But his wife, said to him, look, I don't want you sitting around the house getting under my feet, getting in my way. What are you going to do? You know, you can't just sit around doing nothing. Why don't you get the band back together again? And so Dave messaged us, the three of us, and said, I've got a proposition for you. What if you want to come and meet me in this bar in London on Friday night at this time? I'll be there. So the drummer had just had kids, so he had young kids, so he was not interested. But me and Ed, the guitarist, who went along and met up with Dave, just hear what he had to say. And the first thing he said to me was that I just interested in just having a good time. And I thought, well, that's a good start. If you have that as your objective, that you're going to have a good time, then you quite often manage it. And so we got together, we did one song at a charity gig. Where I have a covers band called the Shakespearos, and we were being like the house band at this charity gig. And so Ed and Dave got up and played Turning Japanese with us. And then they just got a massive amount of hits on YouTube, and it was like, oh, blimey, look at all these thousands and thousands of people that have looked at this clip. And then we got offered 4 gigs. It must have been 2016, I think it was 2016, in the autumn, in the fall. And that was really, we were just going to do those 4 gigs. But they went well, and people seemed to like it, and we just sort of toddled along after that, and just here we still are now.
Now, when you did those gigs, those 4 gigs, did you gel? Did as soon as you got on stage, it just came back to you that you guys had toured before? I mean, what's it like when you come back? Because you had a long layoff, and you all have had different lives. It's not like you're young kids going, oh, look, well, we haven't talked for 2 years. We haven't played together for 2 years. What was it like? And was there a nervousness? Because all of a sudden you go from playing one song and it gets a bunch of hits, then you got to do a set. So what was it like that first night on stage for a longer show?
Yeah, well, that was pretty nerve-wracking because although I'd been playing, I hadn't been playing those songs, and yeah, some of it's quite intricate and quite difficult. We had a new drummer who we had to fit in. So yeah, at first there was a little bit of nervousness, but you quickly realise the people that come to the gig, they want it to be good. They want to enjoy it, and you don't have to worry about it, really. You don't have to worry about it as long as you don't do anything disastrous.
So you ended up playing some gigs in New York. What was how did that come about?
That's a friend of ours another friend of ours in America who just said, "Look, why don't you guys come to America and play some shows? We could do well." And he fixed us up at the Mercury Lounge with 3 nights, and we went over and had just like the best weekend in New York.
How fun! I mean, what did those weekends consist of? Because you're in New York, you're playing these gigs, people want to see you. You guys had a lot of people. I mean, it was buzz on the internet. There's some '80s in Philly on Facebook. There's an '80s group called Land of the Lost, and they're all '80s things. But that was like popping up, like, oh my god, the papers are coming. So what was it like for you guys? I mean, did you feel like that a hero's welcome coming back in there, and did you feel appreciated?
It was just. Well, it's incredible. I mean, I was smoking at the time, and so I was quite often out the front of the Mercury, just quietly having a cigarette on my own. And I tell you, the whole time, people came up to me and they tell me stories about what the band meant to them when they were young, and how people were saying really incredible things about what the music had done for them, and so it was really incredibly nice.
Now, you have the Lost 80s tour coming up, but you're also doing you're doing a UK tour. Now, what are those UK shows? Is that just you guys? Are you the headliner? Or what are those tours? What's that tour going to be about?
Well, we've got a few shows in March, which are just our show. Well, we're the headline band. And we're going back into grassroots venues, back to where we started, punky album, punky venues. So we're doing, I think, sort of 5 or 6 of those shows to promote the album. And then we're supporting Big Country for 4 weekends or 5 weekends. 5 weekends. With some UK gigs. And they're also doing the 80s tour in America in the summer.
So, looking back at your career, do you remember the first time you heard your band on the radio?
Yes, it was a John Peel session, which was been in the summer of 1979. Yeah, I remember it well. We all sat around the radio.
So, yeah, what is that like? You're just sitting there. Did you know it was coming on? I mean, what was the lead up?
Yeah, they tell you when you were going to be on the John. You do a 3 or 4 song session for John Peel, and he'd play the songs over the course of his program, which was 3 hours long. And he'd just every so often he'd drop in. He'd have 2 sessions a night, so there'd be 2 different sessions, and he'd just drop tracks from the sessions in amongst the sort of normal record company releases.
And so you guys are all hanging out in front of the radio just waiting for it?
Little transistor radio, tinny sound.
So once you heard it, man, did you guys go crazy? I mean, what's that feeling like? You hearing yourself, I don't care if it's a transistor or whatever, were you just like blown away?
Yeah, it was like, because this is before John and Bruce had really got interested. Like, Bruce was being helpful and positive and encouraging and everything, but we basically got the John Peel session. Dave just sent in a cassette. It was literally like Dave sent in a cassette. We had a session, and so that was I don't actually. The version of Waiting for the Weekend on that session, I think, is the best version that there is of Waiting for the Weekend, and there's a lot of them. So yeah, you'd go in for a day, and you'd have to record and mix your tracks in that day. So it's pretty hardcore.
Now, give me just a few '80s stories, '80s music stories. What was it like? Because as I said, I followed all the bands. I used to go see so many concerts, and we were in front of MTV. We loved MTV. In college, we watched it. We danced some songs. Just give me some of these listeners know, what was it like touring in the '80s when everyone was just like cool, no one was uptight. Like the '80s, everyone just wanted to have fun. What was it like being a musician back then?
Well, it was good fun, obviously. Yeah, it was good fun. I still love touring, and part of that is, hanging out with people, meeting people, having a party, basically. I still want to do that. We still do that.
Well, who are some of the people you met early on that really you were in awe? Like, people that were musicians that you must have liked, you must have met them.
Well, yeah, Clem at the Whiskey A Go-Go was quite in awe of, definitely. Actually, Clem's become a bit of a friend now. I know Clem quite well. But yeah, the Jam, Paul Weller, that was really for me. I was a massive Jam fan, so I found Paul a bit intimidating at first, but I'm trying to think, it was on that Top of the Pops we were on, the first one. Elvis Costello I met. I met it's a list of people, isn't there?
Tell me about Tops.
My favourite one was we were recording. We were overdubbing and mixing in MCA Whitney Studios, which is somewhere around LA, because we were staying in LA, and we were in Studio 2, and in Studio 1 was Barry White, and I was like, oh my God, Barry White's in there, and I was talking to the studio manager guy, and I went, what's Barry White like? And he went, oh, he's a really nice guy. And I went, oh, it would be really nice to meet him. And then a couple of afternoons after that, he came up to me with a tray with a teapot on it and some cups and milk and that. He said, Barry has his tea like 4:00 every afternoon. Take his tea into him. So I went into the studio. There's Barry White, and I said, here's your tea. And he went, you're going to sit down and have a cup of tea? I went, yes, I am going to sit down and have a cup. I was just sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm having tea with Barry White. Oh my God, I'm having tea with Barry White.
See, that's awesome. That's the things I love. Now, just real quick, tell me about Top of the Pops, because I know once your record goes on there, it becomes huge. Your first time, how did it happen? And were you guys just shitting yourself? I mean, you must have been like, holy crap, we're on Top of the Pops.
Yeah, Top of the Pops started when I was about 6 years old, and every week, probably from then on, I watched Top of the Pops. The thing was with Top of the Pops, there was always something for everybody. There was something that your mum would like, there was something that your gran would like, there's something that your little sister would like, there's something that you'd like. So there might be 10 different things on, and you might only really like 3 of them, but it was worth watching anyway for that. And everyone watched it. They were getting audience numbers that you can't even think about now, 16, 17, 18 million a week, which was phenomenal numbers. And so I'd grown up with it. We'd all grown up with it. And it was a bit intimidating, again, because we're fans, we were the kids from Guildford. But yeah, you just do it. You don't get a rehearsal or anything. You just get up there. You don't get a run through. You just get up there. They go 1, 2, 3, 4. You do your thing, and that's it. You hang around all day for 3.5 minutes worth of work.
Did it change your career though? Did you sell a lot of records after that?
Yeah. We were on Top of the Pops, and then you're up the next week, up 20 places, and next time you only go up another 15 places. Yeah, it was always, it did well for us, yeah.
Well, as a musician, you said you love touring, but you must also love that, Turning Japanese has been a big hit for a long time. You must see parents who bring their kids, what's that like to see, 2 generations. I mean, maybe even 3, because you think about it. Grandparents bring their kids. I mean, what's it like for a musician to sit there and think, "Wow, I influenced someone enough that they liked my song, and now their kids like it, and their kids like it." I mean, what is that like?
I said, no, it's incredible. It's incredible, and there are, seem to be increasing amounts of younger people coming to the gigs, really. But it's usually because their parents played them the music when they were really young. It reminds them of being really young around their families. But yeah, we did one. There was an 80s show that we did, one of the Lost 80s shows, and it was an outdoor thing. And I saw what was basically the mother, her daughter, and the grandmother all dancing to one of the bands. And I thought, yeah, that's amazing that they're all really enjoying the same thing.
Well, what do you think made the 80s so special in the music? What do you think it is? Because it's lasted forever. Your fans were still ravenous about it. But what do you think, like when you guys hit it, what do you think was the reason that Turning Japanese and your other songs all became so big? And what do you think, why has it lasted?
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head there. It's the quality of the songs. There's so many great songs from I saw the top 75 records over the year of 1983 the other day, and I was just going, oh my God, look at all these fantastic, really great records. And it's just that, I think, the quality of the songwriting and the performing.
So one final question, looking back on your career, what are just a few things you're very proud of? I mean, what makes you proud of, you've been a musician, you've been a working musician, which was one thing, but what are a few things that just make you proud when you look back and you go, God damn, I've had a pretty good life?
What makes me proud? We played a Cruel World Festival in 2023, I think, to 35,000 people, 40,000 people, and that was just an immense source of pride because I was so proud of the boys. We played really, really well. Like our biggest ever gig, and I think probably the best we've ever played. I'm proud of my silver discs and gold discs, and I'm proud of all of the albums. I really am.
And you're proud of this album, the latest album?
Yeah, I'm really proud of this one. Yeah.
What was
the fresh? Is still exciting me.
Well, it is, but it's got a lot of different sounding rights. It's got some punky stuff, it's got some stuff. But why it's such a long song at the end? And I like the song, but why did you decide to put that long, it's a 9-minute song? What was it?
Yeah, well, no, it's not actually a 9-minute song. There's a bit of silence in there. There's actually 2 songs. There's one song, and then it's like a hidden track. It's back to the 80s again. It's a hidden song on the CD.
And you're happy with it?
Yeah. No, it's just what we asked for. We said, look, do you remember those days when you used to buy a CD and there'd be a hidden track at the end and it wouldn't be? So we just decided to do that. Particularly as the hidden track is just another version of one of the songs on the CD anyway. It's but actually quite a few people have picked up on it, which is good.
And it's a great album, and I'm glad. Now, when's the drop date? I know you can find a single now, but when does the album drop?
I think it's February 27th.
Okay.
Or 28th, maybe.
Well,
whichever one's a...
Okay, well, that's awesome. I want to thank you for coming, Steve. People, please go to the website, thevapors.co.uk. Listen to the new album when you get a chance. It is really good. I got a sneak preview of it. That's the one good thing about when you interview these people. You get a sneak preview of the album. And just go back and listen to the old Vapors songs. And watch the Turning Japanese video. It's going to take you back to the 80s, and it's great. So also go to my website, coopertalk.net. You can find 1,030 episodes. You can email me at coopertalk.net. Instagram at CooperTalk1, Twitter at CooperTalk, Facebook, Cooper Talk Radio. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you next time.